Welcome to NCRHA Coast to Coast. The first, well, I don't want to say the first, but the first to my knowledge, ever attempt at creating a nationwide multimedia roller hockey project where we're going to cover everything across the country when it comes to the NCRHA, from the West Coast, the WCRHL, all the way to the ECRHA. I'm Kevin Smith, and you might know me from NCRHA Live, which we did last year, leading up and covering the 2011 NCRHA National Championships. We had a great response from you guys, the listeners. We had calls in during the live show, which was awesome. We got to hear from you guys and hear from players, coaches, and other and fans too from all around the country. And it was a great experience. So now we're gonna try this. I'll be joined later by Ian Prescott. He's the head coach from Northeastern University's D2 team that won regionals earlier today. Well, let's jump into some scores. We're going to just cover D1 today. It's our first ever episode, as I said. And these are going to be the D1 region winners. Westchester took down Towson 6-3 in the ECRHA. UCSB over Cal Poly 6-1 in the West. And I know these scores are flying by. Michigan State over Grand Valley State 6-3. Also, North Texas over Sam Houston. Michigan State over Grand Valley State. And of course, Lindenwood winning their region over UMSL. Bethel over Central Florida. And lastly, Colorado State falling to Metro State Denver in upset fashion. In a best-of-3 series, Metro State with the game-winning goal with just 2 seconds left to take down Colorado State. Well, that's 7 teams. 17 others will be heading to Salt Lake City to compete in the Division I NCRHA National Championships this year. And we want to know who. Well, we're going to figure it out. Or try to, I guess. We've got our best attempt at filling these 17 slots, 17 at-large bids from all around the country. And we're going to dive into it by showing you which regions we think are going to get X amount of bids. So, for example, the ECRHA, how many bids will they get? And compare it to all the other regions, because that's a big breakdown in terms of finding out who's going to get to go to nationals, which teams will be in and which teams will be out. After that, we'll bring on Ian Prescott, and him and I will go back and forth and try to figure out which bubble teams are in, which ones aren't. And we'll show you our final list of teams to wrap up Episode 1 of NCRHA Coast to Coast. The number of bids given per region is determined by a few factors, one being interregional play, and also previous tournament history, success from each region. And clearly you can see which regions have been successful and which ones haven't in the past based on the number of bids given out. We've got a guest now on the phone from the ECRHA, head coach of the Northeastern Huskies, the Division II regional champions, Ian Prescott. Ian, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Doing good. Congrats on the win today. You guys did really well this tournament. And obviously you guys will be out in Salt Lake City for Nationals for D2. But now here as we talk D1, we've got a couple of bubble teams here that we're looking at as we try to figure out who's going to get in and who's out. Let's take a look at a couple ECRHA teams. How about Hofstra?
It's a team that kind of achieved a lot of great successes during the regular season. They beat a couple of very good teams. They had a great game.
Yeah, an unreal game against Lindenwood. Staying in the game, and it was only 6-1. While other ECRHA teams were getting mercied that weekend. As we take a look now at Hofstra's tournament card.
But my bet, if there's going to be a bubble team for the ECRHA to get in, it will be the University of Connecticut.
UConn, of course, a really interesting team, missing Tyler DeSilva for most of the year. He's only played 8 games. With him and Cody Gabor, I think the Huskies could beat just about anybody at least east of the Mississippi. All right, well, you heard it here first. UConn over Hofstra. Now we look at a couple other teams from other regions that are trying to push the envelope here and get in. And the big 2 names that I see are ASU and, surprisingly, Eastern Michigan. Arizona State, of course, the Division I runners-up just a few years ago, and here they find themselves on the bubble trying to get into the tournament. Take a look at ASU. What do you see out of them, and do they get in or not?
ASU's got the experience and the ability to jump in and, play at a national level. They've been to the last two nationals. Of course, those are completely different teams. They had Brian Gantz. They had all their players that also play ACHA.
Yeah, you make a really good point. They've been missing their ACHA guys for most of the season. They missed them this past weekend at regionals, and it's hard to put together, a string of wins and be consistent throughout the season when you're missing guys. That's one thing ASU's really struggled with. If they do make the tournament, they'll definitely be a threat. All right, now here we transition. Got to take a look at Eastern Michigan. They're an interesting team. Their first four losses were due to forfeit, but after that, the Eagles started to pick it up a little bit with an early struggle, if you will. But interregional play with wins against Stony Brook and also Illinois may be what makes the difference in pushing them.
In any of the regions in contention. But the thing is, Eastern Michigan might have the edge because of that interregional play. That's why you go out and play them to get into this discussion where when the seeding meeting happens, the guy says, hey, we want to put this team on the board, and the only way you can compare them is how they do against other regions, and ASU really doesn't have that ability.
Right, so ASU's lack of regional play, and that brings up an interesting point, is the WCRHL is known as one of the toughest regions in the country, but does the lack of regional play make enough of a difference to give EMU a bid over ASU?
I would think the way that they played it in a regional, beating teams that are at region or went to their regionals and almost won is probably enough to get EMU in.
All right, so EMU's in, ASU's out. UConn's in, Hofstra's out. ECU by default is out, and also Texas is out. Of course, Texas playing in the region of what many consider to be a lower tiered region, and ECU just not with enough wins to really be in the argument. Here's the projected bids by region once again, just to give you a little idea of what we're looking at. And here's the list. The 24 teams we think will be going to Salt Lake City. Hopefully you're on there. If not, you can always follow us online. NCRHA Coast to Coast. We'll see you in Salt Lake City. Have a great night.